Don King once said, only in America. A U.S. Senate candidate in Louisiana smoking a joint in a campaign ad. Gary Chambers saying he wants to call attention to how discrimination plays a role in many marijuana-related arrests. Take a listen.
Black people are 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana laws than white people. States waste $3.7 billion enforcing marijuana laws every year. Most of the people police are arresting aren't dealers, but rather people with small amounts of pot, just like me. I'm Gary Chambers, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate.
Chambers is running to unseat Republican Senator John Kennedy in Louisiana's upcoming midterm elections. The panel is back. Atiba, I'll begin with you. Yes, he's doing it because he wants to get publicity. Guess what? He's getting publicity. But the bottom line is he has a point. And the other bottom line is let's not hold up John Kennedy as a paragon of virtue. I'm looking at a great John Kennedy, his opponent, quote, which is, "To a bear, we all taste like chicken." Boy, Louisiana's got their hands. They got a task in front of them on this one.
Yeah, but he's touched on a number of things, opioids. He talked about, other drugs and stuff. But in terms of with this, he's getting the attention that he was looking for. And this is, marijuana and legalization of marijuana has been happening across the country anyway. And for him to put this front and center, there are people that are on the Republican side who will probably come back and back him. And if they don't say it publicly, they'll give him money to his candidacy, because there's a lot of billions of dollars that are in the cannabis industry of businesses and people who would like to see this get federalized. There's so many issues, in terms of banking, et cetera, that go along with this. So, what happens when he's debating Kennedy, what happens with other parts of the campaign, and I'm sure that Kennedy is going to come back and attack him on some other things. But I think that this is just a social justice issue when you talk about incarceration, when you talk about unfair criminal terms, when you talk about the fact that in the cannabis industry, there are a lot of white people that are making a lot of money while black people have been still squeezed out. There are a lot of issues and questions and things that come about with his campaign message, and that's going to get a lot of attention and get a lot of conversation around his candidacy, which is going to be helpful to him in terms of moving forward and whether or not he can have a strong showing against Kennedy or maybe even win the seat.
Tehran, your thoughts? Stroke of genius or a Democratic candidate having a stroke?
Probably a combination of both. I saw the ad yesterday, and to your point, it was bold. And to go against someone like John Kennedy, you got to go bold, right, or go home. So I give him props for that. I definitely have to give my Louisiana state director a call to see what she knows about the brother. But Atiba brought up some great points. I definitely don't want to repeat his. But I will say this. If he runs the right campaign, he can seriously challenge Kennedy. The numbers are there. People may disagree with me, the supposed experts on this, but if you look at the black population and even the population of people who either smoke weed or support those who smoke weed, if he had the right GOTV campaign, he could put a lot of pressure on Kennedy. During the presidential campaign last year, I did my darndest to get states like Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas really galvanized with the campaign, but didn't have the support from higher. It is what it is on that. But if he can work it and put in that hard work, knock on those doors, make the phone calls, you never know. I'm not necessarily saying he's going to win, but he can scare the Republican Party if he runs it right.
Let me ask you this question, Atiba. How scared will the Republican Party be, and in this case, John Kennedy, because you've heard me talk about it before. Stop trying to pressure Joe Manchin. There is a 3% black population in West Virginia. He's not going to change his mind on the filibuster. John Kennedy has flip-flopped more times than a bass coming out of a Mississippi River. I just had to throw that out there. We come up with these every once in a while. But that being the case, right now, what Chambers is doing is putting the focus of race on John Kennedy with regards to, as you like to call it, cannabis, which people in my generation call pot, or marijuana. But the bottom line is he's putting the focus on John Kennedy. Now we're going to be paying attention to how John Kennedy votes on things like voting rights. Could we be seeing an ancillary effect here in Washington, D.C. that no one saw coming?
There's a whole lot of people in Washington who are working in the cannabis lobby, weed, marijuana, pot, whatever you want to call it. I think we've hit everybody's generation so far. But the thing is, what Chambers is doing, and I'll just throw this out to him as a campaign manager, or if I was working on his message from behind the scenes, I would say, how high can we rise? In terms of there's so many different elements or whatever that people who smoke are going to be like, oh yeah, how high? People who are thinking about social justice, how high can we rise with his candidacy? How far can we go? And I think the sky is really the limit if we stop to reimagine. We keep like boxing candidates in to say that they have to run a certain way. This is not just bold, Tehran said. This is not just bold. This was courageous. This is something that we wouldn't be having this conversation right now if he had just released any old campaign message. But he introduced a campaign message that's going to resonate with white, with black, with Asians, with Hispanics, with a whole lot of people, with Republicans and Democrats. So, my hat goes off to him, and any way that I could be helpful, I would help him to win, because we need to unseat people like John Kennedy who are flip-floppers.
Tehran, I got a minute left, but the question has to be asked, what about grandma? A lot of older black voters out there don't like this.
They may not, but fortunately for me, Louisiana is the home state. And one thing old black ladies love is young black men. And so they may not necessarily agree with the young brother smoking weed, but they will be pleased that the young brother's stepping up and doing his thing.
I'm going to add this in. What I want to add this in is
Go ahead. 30 seconds.
A lot of people don't realize how many grandmas are out there that smoke weed that never talk about it.
I knew you were going to say it.
I mean,
I knew you were going to say it.
That's true.
This BNC, let's tell the truth.
That bong you're hearing right now is not Taco Bell. It is the producer saying, please go to break. The reefer madness is out of control. Nativa, Madjun, Tehran Sims, thanks for joining us.